My name is James Holmes. I'm a Denver-based abstract visual artist. And yesterday I posted on my Facebook page for James Holmes Studio a video asking you, my followers on Facebook and on Instagram, to post questions about art, about my process in making art, my personal path and journey towards my art life, questions about interpretations of a particular painting or work. Any question you have, point of curiosity about my art life, I would love to make a series of short videos and answer those questions as they come in. So I got my first question last night from Jennifer Pease, and Jennifer, thank you for submitting the question. And Jennifer writes, what do you think about when you are painting? And that's a great question. You know, I like to say that I paint from the inside out. And I guess I believe in the Frida Kahlo interpretation of the muse when she says that the muse is inside of you. I tend to find that every experience that I have, the people that I know in my life, experiences I have in my day-to-day life, events that occur, some of those events are incredible, very inspiring moments, and sometimes there are things that aren't quite as inspiring that happen in all of our journey and our walk. All of those experiences, the people, the influences, all those things inform my painting when I come into the studio. My process is I basically choose my materials. So I decide if I'm going to be painting on a canvas or on a board. I usually will select music that fits the mood I'm in when I'm in the studio and kind of getting warmed up in the space. So that could be anything from Pearl Jam or other 90s grunge music to Tibetan meditation music, which I'm listening to today in the studio, and everything literally in between. I love music, and music informs so much of what I do, and however I'm feeling on a given day is really going to dictate what music I'm going to paint to. And then I turn my attention towards the color palette, and I tend to paint in very vibrant colors. I like to say that I paint from the inside out. And so whatever it is that's going on inside of me is informing the color selections and the tones I'm going to use on a given painting. And that's usually the next step. And then I really don't think about anything. I basically sit with where I'm at and begin to work with the color palette against the canvas or against the board that I'm painting on, and until it starts to take on its own form. I'm really not consciously thinking in terms of a literal or figurative outcome. If I were, for instance, painting a landscape, I would have a very clear vision probably in my mind about what that landscape looks like, or I might even have a photograph that I use as a reference point while I'm painting. And in my case, painting from really a place of emotional state, painting from the inside out, I'm not consciously thinking of any particular thing while I'm painting. I'm just living in that moment. And what inevitably happens is as the painting begins to evolve and the forms and the shapes and mark making begins to reveal itself, there are moments where I will step back from the painting. In fact, there are several moments where I'll step back from the painting and I'll look at it from a standpoint of the composition to understand what I should be doing in terms of color and form. But again, it's not overthinking, it's not really an intellectual exercise as much as it's just a way of feeling into what's being revealed in the painting and whether or not what's showing up on the canvas is something that's pleasing coming back to me as the artist. So the answer to the question is, what do I think about when I paint? It's really not a process of thinking at all. It's really more of a feeling. And then there is a point in time where, as I say, I will step back from it when I feel like I'm towards the end and see what final things need to happen to really bring the composition of the painting together. Now, the final thing I do, this is really important in my process, I used to always refer to it as meeting the painting in the morning, which is I usually used to paint at night. Before I moved into a commercial studio, I used to paint from home in my basement. I normally painted late at night. So when I finished my painting, I'd shut off the lights and wouldn't really spend much time with the painting once I'm done with it. I'd shut off the lights and I'd go to bed. And then in the morning, with my coffee, I like to come downstairs and do what I call meeting the painting in the morning. I do a similar version of that now, which is simply meeting the painting when I come into the studio the next time. But really that's the point where maybe the intellectual part of it, the thinking part of it comes into play, because then it becomes interpretation. And so I'm looking at this painting that was created the night before, or the day before, or a few days before, and trying to interpret what the painting is saying to me. A lot of times I'll end up seeing figurative forms within the painting that were not intended through thought, but were intended and ended up in the painting through feeling. So I'm a feeling painter, and that's kind of my process and my method. So Jennifer, again, thank you for the question. If you'd like to submit a question that I will record a video answer for and post to my social media, please go to James Holmes Studio on Facebook or James Holmes Studio on Instagram and post a comment or question. You can send me a direct message or a private message, and the next time I'm in the studio, I'll set up and make a video in response to your question. Again, anything regarding process, interpretation of work, favorite artist. I love going deep and diving into the lives and the work of other artists, and I love sharing those stories of things that I learn as well. So it's not just about my process necessarily, but it also can be about anything to do with visual art, which I love so much. So thank you for taking time to watch my video. Again, it's James Holmes Studio, both on Facebook and on Instagram. And until next time, peace to you, and I hope you have a blessed day.